Richard Skipper celebrates. Every show is a celebration. Each show, Richard delivers the artists you love, showcasing what makes them unique. Never gossipy. The antidote to a sometimes hectic world. Now, here's your host, Richard Skipper.
Happy Friday afternoon, everyone. I can't even get it out. Happy Friday. We're here. We made it through another week during a pandemic. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Theaters, clubs, everything is starting to reopen. Slowly, to be on the safe side, but surely. Welcome. For those of you who are here for the first time, my show is about celebrating artists and their body of worth. What makes a great artist? How do they get from point A to point B and beyond? I am so excited about today's guest, Tito Puente Jr. I was lucky enough to see his father perform many times, not far from where I live, here in Rockland County. And it's such a thrill. And I am thrilled that Tito Puente Jr. is here to celebrate and keep the legacy going. Today, we're going to celebrate him. We're going to learn about all the things that brought him to where he is now. How is he dealing with COVID? What was his schedule like before everything shut down? It's all about celebrating, and we're in for a big celebration today. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and on the other side of this little video clip, we'll meet Tito.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is clearly Copa's pleasure to introduce tonight's entertainer, Tito Puente Jr. and his orchestra. Tito Puente, the father, achieved international recognition for his contribution to music as a band leader, composer, arranger, percussionist, and mentor. He was known worldwide as the King of Mambo. His son is determined to nurture the musical legacy left by his father. Before the night is over, we're sure that he'll be known as the king of the Clearly Copa. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tito Puente Jr. and his orchestra.
Everybody, come on! Hey, 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 complicada. Cachimba.
Ave María, Tito Jr., qué sabor.
Clap your hands.
Ritmo bueno pa' gozar. Mulata, oye cómo va. Mi ritmo bueno pa' gozar. Mulata, oye cómo va.
And here he is. Who needs Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson? This is the vaccine that we need right here. How are you?
How you doing? Here's my intro with the little cowbell.
I'll take it. I grew up on a farm in South Carolina. I listen to cowbells every morning.
Hi, Richard. It's a pleasure to be here with you on your show. And I happen to be a Rockland County resident for half of my life. I love Rockland, and it's great to be on your show. So thank you for having me. Muchas gracias.
Yes, I am so thrilled that you're here. As I said, your father, I used to see locally all the time. We miss him tremendously here. And I just want to thank you. What a great legacy that you're carrying on with your father, and that this music continues to live through you. And I have to say, looking at you, I mean, years ago we heard about Dolly the sheep.
Yeah.
Were you cloned?
Kind of cloned, right? I don't have the white hair yet, but it's coming soon.
Well, I know I'm going to say this, and I don't want to depress you because I think it's a celebration. You've got a big birthday coming up in a couple of months.
Yeah, I'm going to be big 50, big 50. And they just celebrated it would have been my father's 98th birthday last Tuesday, which is April 20th. Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, it's great. And yeah, he loved spending time in Rockland. He went to all the restaurants and he loved performing around the world. And I'm glad that you got the opportunity to visit him, see him, and see him perform. A lot of people, after 21 years after his passing this year, a lot of people who are now, or 20 years old now, never got to see Tito Puente. So you're one of the lucky ones. There's only one Tito Puente, and we got the world got to see him, when we had that opportunity.
Well, I want to ask you, I mean, we're going to put things in perspective with where we are right now. And today actually marks 405 days since everything shut down. Theaters, concert halls, cabaret rooms around the country. How are you doing really in the midst of all this? And where is your home base now?
I reside in South Florida, but I will always be a Rockland County boy. My mom still resides in Rockland as well. She lives in Tapan, Orangeburg. My father.
I live in Spark Hill. So
yeah, you're down the street. Love it.
If your mom needs anything, I'm just I
appreciate that. Yeah. She calls me up every day asking for something to me. Well, she's not computer savvy, but she's watching now. So. Hi, Mom. She's watching. She's watching. And my father, of course, is laid to rest in Nanuet, New York.
Yes.
So he's over there, and he loved Rockland County, loved the city. I happen to reside in South Florida. I've been down here about 20 some odd years. Basically, simply because of the Latin music world, it's very easy to travel from here to South America, to Central America, to Puerto Rico, to all the islands. And I do a lot of recording here, but I'm back and forth to New York practically every month prior to the pandemic. So I only visited one time last Christmas. I got an opportunity to go up to Rockland, spend just a couple of days with my mother. We had a test and everything, but I plan on, after we're all vaccinated now, and I plan on spending some time up in the Northeast very soon. And according to my sister Audrey, I don't know if you guys know Audrey is. She's a meteorologist on Fox 5. She's telling me that she just got vaccinated, so I want to go see the nephews and the nieces and the family thing. Kind of tough, Richard. It's been tough. As a performer, performing, 100, 200 shows a year, and all of a sudden everything stopped, last March. I was in New York. I was up in Albany on March 7th is when my last concert was. So it was very difficult because I was about to do a 20-city tour and celebrating the 20th anniversary of my father's passing last year. He passed away on May 31st, 2000. And we had a whole concert tour set up last summer. I didn't get a chance to do it. However, I did do a online, a free online concert, virtual concert back in September, and we ended up getting it off the ground, and everybody got to see it. I think we're up to maybe about 300, maybe 400,000 views. So I'm happy that almost half a million people got to celebrate the life and legacy of my late father, Tito Puente. It's been tough, but things are starting to open up now, and crossing my fingers, I got a couple of calls for later on in the year, October, September's concerts, and that's where we're at right now.
Have you been able to do any outdoor concerts and everything? Florida is in the news a lot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You could
Is it even closed here? I don't even know. What's funny is that I have not been doing any live shows in South Florida or in Florida, the state. So most of my calls I'm going to North Carolina next month to do a little private party. A lot of corporate private things at first. I got to get my chops up. By the way, I haven't played in a while either. So it's good that I'm starting off with these little private things so I can get the kinks out, if you know what I mean. And then I could do some really big concerts where it comes to festivals and maybe social distancing festivals. Outdoor concert seems the way to go. I know in the Northeast, they're looking at that too. Hopefully they'll start some concerts outdoors. And, it's
when was the last time that you performed in Rockland County?
Wow, in Rockland County, I actually performed I won't say Rockland, I was up in Middletown, so I was kind of close. I did that in 2019, and then I did one concert at the Westgate Motor Lodge, which is a very popular place, and they do mambos on Saturday nights. They do Latin night. So I performed there earlier of the year, early last year, 2020. I was just there in January, and then I did something out in New Jersey, right in the Muncie area. So I performed over there. Actually, it was south of that. It was I guess it was like was that Plainfield? I'm not too sure. It was right there in Jersey area. But that was the last time I performed up in Rockland and kind of actually spent time up there. I always happen to perform there around Valentine's Day, and it snows a lot. So there was a big snowstorm the day I left, so I was happy about that. But it's
my birthday is February 11th, so
it always snows. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you. I mean, you grew up in this household with your father. When you were a small child, I want to go back to the 5-year-old Tito. Was your father on the road a lot, or was he around? Did your family travel when he was performing? What was that vibe for your family?
Richard, it was different for me simply because my father did about 250 shows a year. So that's a lot of time on the road. And these weren't just local gigs down at the Copacabana or the Tropicana in New York City. It's a 20-minute ride from where we lived up in Rockland. These were places that I never believed that I would ever travel to. But as I got older, into my teenage years, my mother encouraged me to travel with my father. He was performing, of course, in the Far East, in the Orient, Japan, China, Indonesia, Australia, real faraway places that take days to get to. But they wanted his music, and especially South America too, Brazil, Argentina, Puerto Rico, Mexico. He was on the road most of the year. So during the summertime, my mom encouraged me to go with him on the road, and that's where I became kind of like a band boy. I set up his drums and spent more time with him. He would just amazed me with the amount of people that knew his music. It was very ironic that Latin music was internationally known at the time. This is the 1980s, 70s, and 80s. And mambo music was really, really popular, not only in New York City, but around the planet. And I would go to places where they didn't even know the language of English or Spanish, and people would be singing the great hits like Oye Como Va, Ran Can Can, all those famous songs that my father wrote. Really great experience. He was not home that much, but I am glad I got that opportunity to travel around the world with him. And that was a great experience.
Now, it is the universal language. I mean, let's face it. I mean, I've been listening to your music all day today, and there's no way that anyone can just sit their seat and listen to you play. I'm dancing, but you have a brother, Richard, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
Yes, I did. He passed away a few years ago. He played in a group called Foxy, a very, very popular group, Grammy Award-winning group. And they were very, very popular with the disco era. And he was a drummer and guitar player. And he was from my father's second relationship that he had prior to my mother. So this was all before. My dad had incarnations of his love life and, of course, his career as well. My first brother, his name is Ronald Puente. Ronnie, who is still with us. He's lives in the Bronx now. He was originally from Westchester, and he's still with us, and he's a great musician. I'm performing with him on my latest record, so I keep in touch with him every single day. And then, of course, I'm the baby of the family, and then I have my older sister, 1 year older, Audrey Puente, who's the meteorologist in New York.
We see
so there's four of us.
Yes,
yes, there's four of us.
Even in a completely different direction. Can you believe this? I mean, she's amazing. But what was that moment for you? Obviously, you're surrounded by it. You're hearing it all the time. What was the deciding moment where you said, "This is the path I want to go down"?
Well, originally I was playing rock music. I'm a trap kit drummer player first. So I liked the rock music of the 80s. When I was growing up as a teenager, I studied in school. Of course, I studied band. I played in the band for the high school that I went to. I went to alumni of Tappan Zee High School right there in Orangeburg, New York. And I learned from some great, fantastic teachers. I think most drummers are frustrated bass players, and bass players are frustrated drummers. So of course that's me. So I played bass at first, and then I played the trap kit, and I played rock music, which was the taste, not in the good taste of my father. Tito Puente didn't care for rock music. He was into jazz and of course blues and mambo music at the time. He didn't really understand rock music until Carlos Santana redid one of his famous hits, Oye Como Va. That's when he got into rock music. And he said, I like rock music because it created a whole new generation of people to listen to what he was writing back in the 1950s and 60s. But I started off as a rock player, and then when I started traveling with my father and learning about the clave rhythm, the 3/2 clave, the thing that makes the rhythm, the conga, the timbale, the bongo, and of course at that time, the most closest that we were probably, you and I maybe even getting some Latin music was Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine, and that was really popular at that time. So I realized that this music is really transcends, cultures, creeds, races, and countries. And when I travel with him, that's when I started getting into the Latin music and my Latin music roots. So I would say about the age of 15, 16, I got into it a lot more than usual. I still have a first level for heavy metal and rock music now. It'll always be here, and I'll still go see a Bon Jovi or a Motley Crue or a Def Leppard concert any day.
Would you ever go back to playing that music?
I had a rock band named Monoxide from Rockland, and we tried to do some reunions. I don't know if I could keep up with them anymore. I'm a little more in the Latin music era, but I would probably want to do some sort of reunion just for old time's sake. I still love rock musicians. I still love the rock drummers. Some of my favorites, the late Neil Peart, of course, Phil Collins, Lars Ulrich, Metallica, and John Bonham of Led Zeppelin. These are some of the icons of rock drumming. And then you have the Buddy Rich and the Gene Krupas, who are just absolutely phenomenal. The creators, the pioneers. And then Tito Puente, he's right there with them. I always believe that my father had that rhythm, and that style of playing his drums was just unique to his style of playing, and of course Latin music worldwide.
You mentioned a moment ago the teachers, and teachers, especially those who impart the arts to our kids, have a special place in my heart. So I'd like you to acknowledge some of the teachers that made an impact on you, not only as a musician, but as a human being.
Not only my father was a great influence and just a teacher of just being a good parent, simply because I'm a dad now, and with my son Tito Puente Jr, the third, and my daughter Miranda, and we got the kids here. But he taught me a lot more than that, because when I went on the road with him, he was a consummate professional and very military with his orchestra. He's a perfectionist, if you will, to the point where anything that I would say would be interrupting El Maestro Tito Puente. So he would tell me, don't talk, just listen and watch me. And I got that teachings from being on the side of the stage and observing his behavior and how he professionally took a band from obscurity of Spanish Harlem and taking them worldwide with his orchestra. I'm meaning that. But it was something really, really unique for me. My father did not teach me how to play drums. So I'm very grateful that he's pushed me to go to school to learn how to read and write music. Went to Five Towns College of Conservatory of Music it was in Seaford, Long Island at the time, in the early 90s. And I'm so glad that I got that opportunity to do 2 semesters there, learn about jazz history, Jazz 101, history of jazz, learn about music, learn about the rudimentary playing of actually playing percussion, drums. And I learned from a great teacher named Mr. Sam Ulano. He was a great, great drummer extraordinaire. And he taught me the rudiments of playing paradiddles and just drumming. Learning about the conga and the Latino rhythms. Of course, I spent a lot of time with the percussion players that were in my father's orchestra. They were like my uncles, if you will. Jose Madera, John Dandy Rodriguez. Those were the people that really pushed Puente to his maximum. My father was a great player, but he would not be that great player if it wasn't those great musicians that were behind him.
Well,
so
it's collaboration, folks.
Yeah, they were really, really good teachers for me.
Well, it's one thing to go out and play. It's a completely different thing to pursue it as a career. And when you decided that you were going to pursue this as a career, you've just told us what your father thought about rock music at the beginning. But was he encouraging to you to pursue the music industry as a career?
I was a jack of all trades, so I went from rock music and then I started playing Latin dance music. At that time, in the late 80s and early 90s, house music was very popular, and so was Latin house music. There were some great, great artists at that time that were doing merengue house and different groups of guys. And I had my reserved thoughts about how I wanted to be perceived, simply because I didn't want to be compared to my father because he was the king of Latin music. I simply couldn't just be the prince, and I didn't really have my chops up with playing timbales. I was more of a drummer. So I started doing the Latin house thing, and I redid Oye Como Va in 1995. And then it ended up charting in the UK and in Canada and all around the world. And all of a sudden, it was like a sleeper hit. So it reincarnated itself to be a dance music version. And that's when I started doing the Latin house music and traveling around the world on my own. My father would be on the other side of the planet, and I would be somewhere else with my group. And it was great. So when we ever crossed paths, it was something really unique and special. And he encouraged me. He said, keep doing what you're doing. Because I was in with what was hip at the time, which was dance music at that era. The late 90s, the early 90s, actually. Right? The whole 1990s, that whole decade was all about dance music and pop music and what was really happening. The boy band thing came into play. And I was into that. And I'm glad that I got my own experience in that realm. I moved over to playing mambo and salsa music more towards the ending of my father's career. Not only his career, but his career never really ended. His passing, his unfortunate passing. So he played all the way till the end, Richard. He did.
Oh, I know, absolutely.
Yeah, and not only that, he had concerts booked almost 2 to 3 years after his passing, which I had to. Of course, that's when I started playing with his orchestra, and I got that little bug in me, and I got that feeling that I would have the blessing of my family to continue his music, in which I do today.
Well, God bless you for that. Lorna Luft, her, Judy Garland's daughter, and
Yes.
of course, last week I interviewed Kiki Ebsen, who is Buddy Ebsen's daughter, and
Right.
both of them have. Kiki has her own career, and so does Lorna, but they have devoted most of their life to their parents' legacy. Just as you're doing with your father, what are some of the things that you've truly learned about not only your father, but yourself playing his music on stage and his style of music?
I said this in a Zoom I did last year, and somebody asked me a question that was very similar to this one, but I want to answer this in the honest, most possible way. When I perform my father's music, people don't come just to see me. Of course, I have the image and I look like him. People come for the nostalgia feeling of seeing and hearing mambo music from an era that was so synonymous to dancing and a great time, from the era of the 1950s, the Palladium era. This era was so unique to dancers, especially salsa and mambo dancers at that time, that they come to my concerts and they enjoy the music. So when I'm performing the music, I try to keep it at the maximum level where people would respect it in the aspect of they would like to dance. Most of the time, most of my concerts, knock on wood, I've never been booed or anything like that. People have enjoyed the music. People have enjoyed the music and have gotten up out of their chairs and danced the music to the music of Tito Puente. I've realized throughout the 20 plus years playing his music and fronting an orchestra with his arrangements and compositions that people come to the concerts not only just to see me is fine, I'm related, but they come for the nostalgic of the Tito Puente sound. It's unique to him, and it brings people that nostalgic feeling. That's really where it's at.
Well, I'm all about celebrating artists and their body of worth. And I want to ask you, pandemic put aside, what is the most difficult thing that you've ever gone through in this business? And what kept you going? And what got you to the other side?
You know, being nervous and being the son of the Latin music titan like Tito Puente, the king, was very intimidating. There was a word called nepotism, and it always was brought up a lot, which is something that I kind of shied away from. And now I kind of embrace who I am. I embrace the fact that I am the son of Tito Puente, and I'm a curator of his music. I push new generations. This is my job now. I push new generations to learn about who he was, because a legacy like that shouldn't be just tossed aside or found in a book. This should be presented to the public, and there are still millions of fans out there that love to hear his music and see somebody pushing that. It's, well, who else better than a family member to do that? I wish my sister would have gotten a little bit closer to the cowbell, but she's got her own career and she's an Emmy Award winner, so kudos to her. My brother is a musician as well, so I will be doing some concerts with him. But I'm really the person in the family that is pushing his music to the new generation of people, and I've embraced that. So when I go in my concerts, I tell everybody I'm not Enrique Iglesias, like Julio Iglesias' son. You know, I'm just Tito Puente Jr., and I'm going to present you with the music of my late father and pretend this is a Mambo 101 class. I'm going to take you through his whole life story from the beginning of the concert, and by the end of this concert, you'll be dancing on your feet and remembering who he was.
And how long do your concerts normally last? Are they 2.5 to 3 hours?
Well, my wife likes them to be 90 minutes. She's like, so she can get out of there. I personally love doing encore performances. Remember, Tito Puente had 186 albums.
That's right.
10,000 compositions. I mean, the vast catalog. I can play music for hours and hours, but I try to keep it between 90 minutes and 2 hours and good solid mambo tunes. I try to avoid the ballads, and I try to keep everybody up tempo. It's good for cardio, by the way. A lot of the fans come, and some of them are elderly, and they do remember the Palladium era. So I try to get them out of their seats and do some cardio, and they love it. And I'm so glad that they're still fans of Tito Puente.
How do you decompress after you do a concert each night? What's your secret?
Wow. Well, when I guess when I would be very, very excited because I'm just up tempo person. I try to just kind of wind down afterwards by thanking the band for bringing my father's music alive once again. And I try to do a lot of meet and greets, and hopefully after, we get vaccinated, we can get back to that, because I love hearing stories about Tito Puente. And the other thing my father taught me, Richard, is my dad told me to surround yourself with creative people, thus you will be creative. And
Amen.
Yeah, and I'm around a lot of musicians, and I love that, because the camaraderie of being around singers, saxophone players, percussion players, piano players, the camaraderie of just talking about music and the history of it and just coming up with great ideas and bouncing off each other is just what I thrive. And that's what lets us all as creative people, as artists, thrive off each other. It's been very hard during this pandemic to do that, but with platforms like this, we can. And I'm so glad that I still keep that in that intuition with me, which is I surround myself with creative people, such as yourself.
Yeah. Well, who are the creative people that inspire you beyond the musicians that you work with?
Wow. Notwithstanding, I have the greatest musicians always around me. I try to give them that some of them could do a little better, but I give them that feeling that they are better. And trust me when I say it, I get inspired by them because I'm always learning. I know I could never replace my father. He was just one of a kind, unique to his own style of playing. a master genius composer, arranger, producer. Not only that, he played 13 different instruments. He was a vibraphone player. He played the saxophone. He played impeccable piano and percussion and congas and drum set. Tito Puente was an all-around musician, and it's embodiment of being a musician he was. And I try to just take whatever he left on this planet and make sure that people remember it for the new generations, for them to discover it. I also feel very, very close to the inspiration of what he has left too. I try to go back and listen to songs when I wasn't even born, songs from the 1940s and 50s that he wrote and composed. So that's really a big inspiration for me. And of course, man, I love female drummers, female percussion players. One of my favorites, and like practically my sister, Miss Sheila E. She's one of my favorite percussion players.
Yes.
Giovanni Hidalgo, he's a fantastic conga player. There's so many great musicians that I just admire in our genre and in rock genres and in all other genres. But I respect most of those musicians simply because the ones that work with my father are still inspiring me to keep his music alive.
Now, we're in a business that, how do I phrase this? People will align with us sometimes. I'm talking about the business side of the business, not the artistic side, the business side. Sometimes they are not necessarily the right people for us, for whatever reasons that is. And again, I'm about celebrating, so no names or anything. But have you dealt with that aspect of business as well? And how did you get through it?
Well, we used to call those people just, sharks, and, those shylarks and sharks and users. And it was tough for me. But what was great about having my mentor, which was my father, is that he worked with people that he was very militant when it came to that. He was very disciplined is the right word. I won't say militant, disciplined when it came to, his money and what he was producing and anything that had to do with the band. He always made sure that the orchestra got paid and make sure that nobody, he would take a cut from his side to make sure, that the band was because he knew that if, he wasn't much if he didn't have that orchestra behind him to make that composition come alive. And that's something that I take into my consideration and into my heart with my orchestra and any band that I work with, or anytime I go up on stage. I respect every musician up there, and I give kudos to them, and with respect that they know who my father was. I didn't think Tito Puente was that popular growing up, simply because I was into another genre of music. But as I've grown in the past 20 years after his passing, I've seen so many great musicians and singers and performers such as yourself, and they remember Tito Puente, and they remember what he gave to the community of Latin music, and not only just the Latin music community, but to Broadway, to New York City, and he was just a staple of New York as well. So it's great to see people like Barbara Streisand, Tony Bennett, honoring Tito Puente and saying, "Oh, we loved your father, Tito. He was an amazing guy." And it's really humbling just to know that the greatest musicians and voices of our time remember him in that aspect.
I want to talk about those synchronicity moments, those moments where you're in a restaurant or you're out and all of a sudden you hear your father in the background. When and where has that happened to you?
Oh, wow. Well, I've been a couple of elevators and heard Oye Como Va. I've heard the Carlos Santana rendition of Tito Puente's Oye Como Va, which was written in 1963. And the 1971 version, of course, is a worldwide top 100 songs of the century, right there next to I Will Survive, Gloria Gaynor, and what's the other one? Macarena. Yeah. They're right there. But yeah, listening to or hearing where I usually get the thrill is watching a movie, and all of a sudden you hear Tito Puente's song, and I didn't even know it was on the soundtrack. And that's nice that they licensed the song. So I saw a couple of cartoons, as a matter of fact, kids' tunes. I saw some, I think it was a Minion movie, and they had Tito Puente's song in there, and it was great to see that. And it's nice that they're showing that. And my father did a lot of things that he thought outside of the box, and he wanted to do things that would keep up and reinvent himself, such as Sesame Sesame Street. Fantastic show, still on today, and he performed on that show a few times. And it's great that he got to indulge with children and teach them about mambo music. He was already in his late 50s when he did that. And it was nice how he reinvented himself all the time. And I continuously do that too, and find ways where we can share his music and share, through social media pages, Tito Puente, his style of playing, his vast catalog, and the accolades. There's a lot of accolades, that he has too as well. All the Grammy Awards and stuff.
And over the past year, how have you been able to maintain your artistry without having to be able to be in front of an audience? Are you writing a lot? Are you do you virtually get together with your musician friends? What's happening with you?
A little tough for us. I completed a record, a 20th anniversary tribute album that was supposed to be released last year, but due to the pandemic, we could not release it, but it's coming out this year, coming out this June, as a matter of fact. It's called The King and I. And it was very tough to do simply because we all had to be socially distant, separated. So we had to do it track by track. My father taught me to always have the band and the orchestra in one room and do takes, which is a fantastic way of recording. And I love that because it gives it the live sound. I couldn't do it with this album, but the album did come with a collaborative effort with everybody recording in separate remote places. It did collaborate, and it sounds fantastic. And I'm ready to share it with everybody. It'll come out in June. And
around your birthday? What a birthday
around
gift.
my birthday, yeah. I'll put out the record as well. The first song is called 20 Años. It has a lot of great singers that work with my father. And I'm just excited. It's 10 songs, 1 original and 10 old classic Tito Puente songs. Now, I haven't put out an album in about 10 years. All I've been doing for the past 10 years is performing Tito Puente music. So it was a little strategic for me to say, hey, let's do something a little bit more original. So I put out the first single. It's going to come out right before the anniversary of his passing, which is May 31st. And we'll put out the first single, which is 20-year anniversary. And let's see how it goes. And I'm looking forward to it. We did record a music video, and I have a lot of celebrities, Latin music celebrities in it. And there's a lot of footage of my father in it too. But notwithstanding, it's going to coincide with a documentary that we plan on putting out towards the end of the year on the life and legacy of my late father.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, very excited about that. We're working in conjunction with Mr. Edward James Olmos, the actor. He's
wonderful.
also a producer. He will be narrating with his deep voice and all. And he is the executive producer of the documentary. Not only was he a fan of Tito Puente, he was also a friend. And we are very happy on behalf of my family to have him come on board and tell the story of my father and his humble beginnings in Spanish Harlem and becoming the child prodigy that he was, and then going to the war and the Palladium era and just learning more about the history of Tito Puente. Really big story, and hopefully a biopic maybe in 2023. So exciting.
And if there was a movie on your father, who would you like to see play him?
Good question. A lot of people said, Tito, you should play him. I should play my father. I would only probably play him without the white hair, so it'll be in the 1940 era. But, a young Puente, I don't know. There's so many young kids coming out of the Disney camp and the Nickelodeon camp that we could get a young kid to play a younger Puente. There's some great movies coming out. I saw a young kid, a dancer. He's going to be in this new movie, In the Heights.
In the Heights.
There's a lot of young actors in that, so I would love to get maybe some of them in there. They're have to be Tito Puente fans. They're doing it in New York. And I was also thinking maybe John Leguizamo, Edward James Olmos would be great too as an older Puente. My father was like a Puerto Rican James Cagney, Richard. So we got to get maybe. There's so many great actors that possibly maybe Jimmy Smits. Somebody who has to be a fan of Tito Puente. And by the way, I was thinking about Charlie Sheen, who loves mambo music, by the way, but I don't know if he would do a good Tito Puente. He needs more of a New York feel to him. So I'm looking for that New York actor that can do it. But there's so many great actors. You could even pass for 2 yourself, Ricardo. You have the hair and the look.
I gotta work on that, though.
You could do it.
I got 10 years. This has all happened in the last year.
But they look shiny. It looks like the Tito Puente look. You have it.
Yeah. But I want to ask. I grew up. I'm 10 years older than you are. I grew up listening to albums, and you sat down and you listened to an album from start to finish. And now, because of Spotify and iTunes and the way that people listen to music, it's not the same experience. So when you're putting together an album, are you thinking of the overall arc of the album, or are you thinking of each song as an entity into itself?
That's a very good question too, as well. Now, the attention span of these kids, I could take it from me. My kids are 14 and 13. The attention span is very minimum. I'm telling them to watch us right now, and they're like, "Okay, just in a minute." You know, they'll watch 2 seconds of this, and then they swipe right, and that's it. Yeah. So, you know, the attention span of everybody is very low, at a standstill. And during the pandemic, people want more entertainment through these platforms. So that's why they're looking at more things. When I did record this album, and when I recorded in my past records, I wanted each song to sound quality. That quality is most important to me. I wanted the quality to sound rich and vibrant, and to the way that my father would like his arrangements to be presented. So that's what I did with this record. It does have an arc to it, where I started off with more of a older singers that work with my father in the beginning of the album, towards the younger generation as he worked throughout his career. And then I take you into that whole percussive Afro-Cuban sound into the album as well. I have a female singer named Yolanda Duke on the record as well. But each song has its own entity, its own feeling for the dancer. And that's what the embodiment of the whole entire album, The King and I, is about. It's for the dancer. It's for the mambo dancer. It's for the enthusiastic person, the fan, the hardcore Tito Puente fan. If you love Tito Puente music, you will enjoy it. This one's for the ages. And this is the type of song that you put on at your bar mitzvah or divorce party or whatever, and everybody get on the dance floor.
There may be a lot of divorces when we get back.
Yeah.
Who knows? I want to ask you, how ambitious are you when it comes to your career in terms of the way that you pursue things? Or talent, withstanding the talents there, that the career unfolds based on the connections that you've made over the year? Over your career. Yeah. You know, where do you fit in on the spectrum of the pursuit of your work?
Wow. I'm right on I always feel like I'm on the like the seesaw of it, because I love the new generation of Latin musicians, the trap music, the Bad Bunnies, the Daddy Yankees, the Ricky Martin, all of those great artists. I'm fascinated by that stuff, because, you know, being born and raised in New York, we have that I guess an open mind to different cultures and creeds and colors, and a rainbow of different sounds. I love all genres of music, and I dabbled in the Latin house music and the reggaeton and all that. So I would love to maybe one day perform with those artists and be a special invited guest artist, and they can do vice versa with me on my records. To cross different cultures and different sounds in the Latin music world. And I would love to do a heavy metal record with a mambo record, mambo metal. I think there's got to be a way to do it.
Mambo metal, there it is.
Mambo metal. So I hope that everybody could just be open to that as we get older and broaden our horizons with music. And I think that's really the key to everything. Broadway is a beautiful place, and that I'd love to see more Latin music. I love the Gloria Estefan Get On Your Feet show. That was fantastic. They had a Celia Cruz show as well. And I see all these biopics, the Tina Turner, the Carole Kings. These are great.
Has that been talked about with your father's music?
I think I would probably want to do the documentary first, and then go into some sort of musical. We have enough music to talk about.
Absolutely.
Puente, of course. And the musical would be so fantastic.
And his life story is amazing. So
yes, it would be a fantastic thing to, in the future, maybe explore. I think they did one with Celia Cruz, which was fantastic as well. Yes. So Celia Cruz and Tito Puente together in some sort of Broadway show would be phenomenal. And I think that's something that we as the family would love to see one day on the right there on 42nd Street, you know?
Well, since you've embarked on your own career, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen in the industry since you first started? What are some of the things that you love the most about changes in the industry? What are the things that you dislike the most? And what parts of the industry that were in place when you first started that are no longer there that you miss the most?
Well, I miss my compact discs and vinyl. I'm sure we all do.
Yes.
Now everything's just MP3 and downloads and streaming. I like tangible items. So when I put out my
Didn't
record,
you
I'm gonna.
love going into a record
Oh,
store
I
and
love
going through the
that.
record bins?
It's my favorite, man. Oh my God, I got still all my CDs here. That's my favorite. I love the record bids, vinyl. Tito Puente had so many records that were on that. I have a bunch of them here, and that I really miss that part of the industry. However, the live music is where it's at now, and people would like to go see live music, and I love seeing the fans come out and enjoy the music of Puente. There's so many other aspects of the music industry now that are so different. I personally would like to just keep it nostalgic, where I plan on making some CDs, but you got to be more creative and be clever about it. So we're gonna add some T-shirts, Tito Puente, and we'll add, maybe a hot sauce or some drumsticks or something like that, and then make it like a whole bundle package. And people like that; they want tangible items, and especially the fans of Puente. They're any collector of Tito Puente music, which you maybe have some CDs of my father or some classic stuff. They want to see that, and it's just
And
a great
vinyl
feeling.
is making a
Vinyl.
comeback. Yeah.
Yes, I think I would like to do some vinyl too. Maybe a limited edition vinyl with the album. And I think my fans, or the fans of Tito Puente, which happen to be most of my fans, they would want to have something tangible like that as vinyl, T-shirt, CD, nostalgic sticks, anything like that. I think they're into that. Just getting a stream is kind of it's not too personable. And these things, of course, I would sign and autograph, and they would be a part of something that's historical. But I think that's where I kind of stand, where the industry's at. Hopefully they can come back with the vinyl, and it seems to be doing well. And live performances after this pandemic. I mean, that's all us musicians really had at that point. All we had was live music. So.
And we talked earlier about the mentors in your life. Would you consider yourself a mentor? Would you be interested in imparting what you've learned along the way, both on the business end of the business and the artistic end to the next generation?
I wish, for me, I would rather be a spokesperson for pushing instruments and musical instruments into schools. To me, that was one of my father's missions in life. He wanted to see more conservatories of music open up. He graduated from the Juilliard School of Music. Actually, he didn't graduate, but he went to the Juilliard School of Music. To me, that's something what was his lifelong dream, to give instruments back scholarships, give scholarships in music and in dancing, in dance and music. And to me, that would be something in my interest. And I think my family would like to do something as well in that aspect. Because my father had a scholarship fund for over 20 years, and he gave back to the community in New York City to many different up-and-coming rising talents that really deserved that opportunity. And he made that happen for many children throughout his entire career, at least for those 20 years of his career. And something like that, I would love to. I do speak a lot with students in different schools through the Zoom, but I like to do things in person and give clinics, drum clinics, teaching kids a little bit of rudimentaries on how to play clave, 2-3-3-2 clave, little things like that. Nursery schools, kindergarten, just to teach them more about the history of Latin music. And I think that's what I really do the most. Somebody called me a curator of mambo right now, and if I'm going to be called that, then so be it. I
love that. I think it's great.
A curator of mambo music, and I guess I want to be that, because not only do I represent Tito Puente, I represent the whole mambo era of Tito Rodriguez, Machito, all the Latin music from Fania All Stars all the way to Celia Cruz. I mean, it's all one umbrella, and they call it salsa today.
Now, we talked earlier about some of the teachers that made an impact on you, but did you have a great arts and education program when you were going to school here in Rockland County?
Well, I took advantage of most of it. That's really what it was, because I said, if I'm going to play in a rock band, you thought you would play by ear or piano or drums and stuff and bass at that time. But I said, my father's like, you got to learn how to read and write, because if you really want to pursue music, you better be a session player. you got to know how to play, because these guys are going to throw music in front of you. And back in the 80s, there were a lot of session drummers at that time. So I had a lot of competition. So he said, you got to learn how to read and write, learn how to do rudiments on learn the keyboard, got to learn your notes, and then learn a little bit of tablature as far as guitar and bass. And so I got just the basics down, and that's where the talent resonates from, where I kind of got the basics down. Now I know how to read and write a little bit, and now I know I could look at a sheet of music and say, okay, this one can move easier with this one. Sometimes some songs, most practical songs in the world, are the best ones. And tunes like Oye Como Va, which is just a straight vamp, ends up being one of the biggest hits in the world. And I liked when my father was more practical and more technical with his drumming, but practical with the entire band, and something that sounds more swinging. But those inspirations for me growing up, I was definitely inspired by my teachers that were teaching me in school at the time on how to read and write music. And I'm glad, thank God, that I got that opportunity. I'm trying to teach my kids the same way as they grow older. To respect your teachers and learn to love them in the way that you don't see now, because they think they're just a headache. I got to go to school, it's a headache.
Now, are they going to school, or are they doing virtual learning right now?
They are just, and here in Florida, they are now going back to school, but very, very social distancing, about 6 or 7 kids in the classroom. They just started just about a month or so ago, but they're going to be over soon. They usually end like at the end of May or beginning of June, but we're
Let
all
me ask
back.
about your kids. What's the biggest impact that the year has had on them?
Wow. Well, remember, they never got to meet their grandfather. So they never got the experience of seeing a worldwide, icon like that, the Duke Ellington of Mambo, the Mambo Pope. But I try to teach them as best as I can through video footage and just history, and just chatting with them about who their grandfather was and how much of an impact he made around this planet. They kind of, go to school, and some people don't understand your grandfather was Tito Puente and stuff like that. I got that when I was growing up too. Me and my sisters and my brothers, we all had that, being sons of legends like that and daughters of legends. But we've embraced that. As we get older, we embrace that, and we're proud to say that we are the heirs of the king of Latin music. And it's an honor to be his son. It's an honor to continue his music. And I want my children to gravitate towards that. Hey, you know something, Richard? They say talent skips a generation. So I think my kids are going to do great.
Don't say that. Are they artistic at all?
They are. My son actually is very good with artistic, and he is an animator. So he does a lot of animation, and I think he's going to be in the Broadway world because he's a very good actor and a good stand-up comedian too as well. But I try to push them to do what they choose in the world. And my daughter's a fantastic singer, and she's gets great grades, and I encourage her to do whatever her heart desires. And that's what way my mom and dad did it too. So I'm happy to say that.
God bless you for that. But I want to go back again to arts and education. It's interesting in our culture that if funding is being cut, the first thing that goes is arts funding. And just, if you could speak to everyone right now and with your thoughts on how important arts and education is to all the people that are watching, their children and their children's children. I'm going to say extremely vital to the development of all children and everyone. It doesn't matter what nationality you are, or what broke, rich, poor, white, black, Italian, whatever you are. It is essential that music be a part of your kid's life. And if you're Hispanic, especially, teach your children about your culture. It's so important and vital to have music in the school. Teach your kids about Latin culture, about Celia Cruz, about Tito Puente, about Tefano Oster, Johnny Pacheco, the late great Johnny Pacheco. These were icons and pioneers to get everybody to open the doors for all Latin musicians, including Gloria Estefan, Ricky Martin, Jennifer Lopez, Mark Anthony. I can go on and on with the list of the fantastic musicians that we have, and singers and performers that we have today that are Hispanic. And Tito Puente was one of those pioneers that opened the door for all of them. And I'm grateful that they all still acknowledge that too. And it's great to see that. But definitely teach your kids about where Latin music comes from. It's so important for me to have more of
these programs in schools, conservatories of music, colleges, universities. They all need a music program. I'll go in as far as elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. They need it too. So hopefully there's more funding from the government now that we switch administrations now. Hopefully they will have some sort of that piece of pie, of the American pie, and support music in the schools. It's really, really important for me, and I encourage all the parents that are watching to teach your kids some musical instruments as they grow older.
Thank you so much for that. Well, I can't believe this, but we are at the end of our show.
Yeah.
I've had a great time. I hope that you have too. You always have a platform here. Anytime you want to come and talk about anything, just reach out, and you've got the opportunity right here. I want to thank everybody for being here today. If you enjoyed today's show, and I hope you did, please, please, please subscribe to Richard Skipper Celebrates on YouTube. Hit the like button and let your friends know about this. Again, I'm all about celebrating artists and their body of worth. I also end every show. I want to let everyone know, if you are around tomorrow afternoon at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, I'm celebrating the great dancer Robert Pageant of Oklahoma Carousel. He was in the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. He was an Agnes de Mille dancer, and his partner William Schneider is going to be sitting down with me to talk about his legacy. It's all about letting this generation know about those artists that came before us, like your father. And it's very important that we keep that music and the legacy and the dance flowing. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list. Go to the 5th name that pops up and pick up the phone and call that person. Not an email, not a text message, not a private inbox message, a phone call. Let them know what they mean to you. Because as my dear friend David Friedman says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. You never know what someone else is going through right now. And Tito, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to turn it over to you. Anything that you want to say about anything that we've talked about today that you would like to expound upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any message that you want to put out to everyone watching right now. Thank you for the gifts that you've given to the world and that you will continue to give. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Wow. What an intro and an outro from Ricardo Skipper. I'm going to call him Ricardo from now on. Bueno, muchas gracias y saludos para toda mi gente latino que ven esta tarde aquí con Ricardo Skipper. Es un placer, es un honor de que se hablan con la música de mi padre, Tito Puente, en esta pequeña celebración de la cumpleaños de mi padre. I wanted to say something in Spanish for my Latin brothers and sisters who are watching today. And I also encourage everybody, do yourself a favor. Play some Tito Puente music during this weekend. And I promise you that during this whole quarantine, I especially get through it much better with Tito Puente music. Every time I play a Tito Puente song, and I'm sure that Richard can vouch for this too, it's very uplifting, very spiritually uplifting, and it makes you feel better. I encourage everybody to surround themselves with creative people. Once we get out of this pandemic, get vaccinated, mask up, socially distant. We're only in this for a little while longer. And I hope to see everybody in concert real soon to experience the music of my late father, Tito Puente. Thank you for celebrating his life and his legacy here on his 21st anniversary. Make sure you look at the documentary. You can see some footage at www.thetitopuenteproject.com. You can go and check out how we're moving on with the biopic and the docuseries. And look out for my latest record, The King and I, coming out in June under J&M Records, Doral Music. You can also follow me at Instagram, Tito Puente Jr., and Facebook, Twitter, and my kids got me doing the TikTok thing too, so you can find me on TikTok as well. Just look at the search box at Tito Puente Jr. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you guys very much for this great experience. What more can I say? Oye, ¿cómo va? Mi ritmo bueno pa' gozar. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Huepa!